and Matthew Roy, who is our Masters of Urban Design designer. We'd like to start off by thanking you, the esteemed members of the town of Gilbert, for granting us this opportunity to present to you. We're really appreciative, and we're very excited to hopefully become your partner for the redevelopment of the historic district. To start out, we'll just go through the key topics. We're going to cover the mission for our project. We're going to do a comparison of some of the East Valley downtowns. We'll establish a target audience, discuss project phasing, and then go through the deal structure and the timelines. Our mission is to establish the Heritage Village Center as the premier destination in the Southeast Valley. Our keys to success will be to incorporate historic influence, stimulate economic growth, and establish a family and pedestrian-friendly community. We'll start by doing a comparison with the three other key downtown areas within the East Valley. Most of you folks are familiar with these locations. Starting up north, we have Old Town Scottsdale, which is right at Indian School and Scottsdale Road, downtown Tempe at Mill Avenue, and downtown Chandler at Chandler Boulevard and Arizona Avenue. And then, of course, we have the Heritage Village Center. Those rings that you see represent a 1-mile radius, so we'll call this the nucleus. Looking at population, we'll see that within that nucleus, Gilbert is actually the smallest number of people. So what does that say to us? What that says to us is opportunity. It's an opportunity to draw people in. When you do a site analysis, you're usually going to look at least from a 1 to a 5-mile radius. So let's see what happens to these numbers when we jump to a 5-mile ring. As you can see, we have a tremendous pool of individuals with very strong demographics, and it's a tremendous opportunity to capitalize on this, this district here. But look at Tempe. They're right on our heels here. Don't they have a large university right up there in that area, 70,000 students? Let's take a look at what happens to these numbers if we look at it with respect to family count. Now that's more like it. So as you can see, folks, we have an opportunity here that far surpasses any of these other regions in the valley. Now that we've seen that, let's take a deeper dive into this part of Gilbert and see what's actually settling there. This will work. Sorry. Okay, we're going to skip that and just go straight to the Heritage Village Center. The Heritage Village Center really envelops the historic culture of Gilbert. We've got some key sites like the Water Tower, the Union Pacific Railroad, and the old farming and agriculture aspect. Looking at age group, you'll notice that it's comprised primarily of working age professionals. We also have a great mix of children and young adults. These are exactly the type of metrics we're looking for to establish our vision. More good news is with respect to income. As you can see, over half of the households here are earning between $50,000 and $100,000. Tapestry segments are defined by taking a combination of income, age, education, and geographics to classify groups of individuals. Here in the Historic Center, we have 3 individuals that are prominent and that we want to focus on, that being up-and-coming families, enterprising professionals, and the young and the restless. Here to tell us a little bit more about what the type of amenities these folks will desire is Camille.
So yeah, I do know a little bit about what is important to the people of Gilbert. They are a family-oriented town. They like to go to restaurants together. They like to work out together. They like to go see movies together. They are very technological savvy. At the end of the day, this is a younger people that has a desire for a lot of amenities. What we plan to release to the market is approximately 195,000 square foot of multifamily, as well as about 216,000 square foot of retail. We propose an 84,000 square foot hotel, as well as approximately 70,000 square foot of office. As you can see here in our phase 1, I'm going to use this map over here so you guys can see, or not. Oh. There we go. This is our phase 1 right here. This is the core of our project. The idea behind it is to bring the center of gravity from roughly here to approximately here. We chose this because this is the highest availability of land that's available for us right now, the highest concentration. So we feel like that's the best opportunity to be able to give you guys a true downtown. As you can see, phase 2 surrounds phase 1. Phase 3 is on the outside right here, and our phase 4 is on the southern level. Okay, so let's dive deeper into phase 1. The two concepts that I'm going to talk about here are both mixed-use developments, one being office-centric, the other being multifamily-centric. So I'm going to show you those two right here. Up here is our multifamily-centric development. Right here below it is our office-centric development. Both have ground floor retail. Right here also houses our 15,000 square foot farmers market, as well as right across the street from it will be the outdoor theater that is surrounded by food truck docking stations. So right here is the corridor in between the core. It promotes outdoor seating to incentivize the retailers to provide food options. Here is our core development, the one that I was speaking of up here. That is our multifamily-centric development. Multifamily on the top and retail on the bottom. So here's an example of our outdoor theater. This design is small in cost because of the fact that it has just a little bit of concrete. Most outdoor theaters have a ton of concrete, which makes it hard in cost as well as makes it a long-term use. You don't want to put all that concrete down and have to tear it back up. So right here is our outdoor theater space. It'll have designated food truck areas, and we'll provide outdoor seating so that way it'll incentivize them to come to the food truck area. Okay, so let's dive deeper into phase 2. Phase 2 will incentivize, will actually focus on Gilbert as a destination dining experience. The first concept we have here is a true live, work, play environment. And then we also have a boutique hotel as well as a few restaurants. So I'm going to bring your attention over here. This is the top parcel right here, will be our boutique hotel. It is a design-driven 130 rooms highlighted by a rooftop restaurant. Doesn't that sound great, a rooftop restaurant in Gilbert? Next, we have our loft space, the one I spoke of before, the true live, work, play development. It will house art gallery space, retail space, office space, as well as spacious loft space. Next, we have our restaurants. Right here will be one restaurant that will contribute, as well as this one right here. They will both contribute to making Gilbert a destination dining experience. I just went over that. Okay, so here's the first proxy that I want to show you. This will be for the live, work, play area. As you can see on the top, it has the multifamily, and the bottom it has the retail. This restaurant would fit in with the way that Gilbert's restaurants are set up now, where they have outdoor seating as well as indoor seating. That synergizes with what's already there. That's our vision for the two restaurants that we have. Design-driven hotel with a rooftop patio. So let's go into phase 3. Phase 3 is a little bit lighter. It covers multifamily right here along the edges, as well as Vaughn Park right here, Veterans Park right here, the park at the Boys and Girls Club, as well as the outdoor theater that I discussed earlier. Our vision for Vaughn Park at the top is to make it a community theater. A community garden. We want to have the Boys and Girls Club supported with, as well as the senior center support the farmers market. The community garden. Come and on the weekends grow their food, bring their families, learn about agriculture. Our vision for Veterans Park would make it a family-oriented development. They would want to come and bring their children there. And lastly, I want to draw your attention to our phase 4. Right here at the intersection of Gilbert and Elliott lies the town's 0-0 lines. This is very important because the 0-0 district should be branded as a cultural amenity for the region. So that's what we plan to do. The cultural center should educate, exhibit, entertain, engage, celebrate, preserve, promote, and research. That's our goal behind this cultural center. And we want it to be design-driven. We want to put it on the map with its design. Lastly, something that's very important throughout all 4 phases of our development will be the walkable landscape, the streetscape. We want to turn this place into a living history. We want to take artifacts from the museum and place them throughout all 4 phases so that as you walk through our downtown district, you're walking, it's a livable history, a walk through time.
Thank you, Camille. Nice work. Now that you've heard about some of our ideas for the project, I'd like to talk to you about the structure that will allow us to make this happen. This is a general outline of the points I'm going to cover with you today. So Gilbert is going to sell land through Copula through the provisions of a master development agreement. The purpose of this master development agreement is so that Copula can become essentially a one-stop shop for Gilbert's real estate needs. Careful attention has been taken to collect input from community stakeholders to make sure that this benefits the community to the maximum extent that it can. Thank you, I guess he's gone, Dan at the Economic Council, Kayla at the Historic Council, and Mary Ellen at the Redevelopment Commission. We appreciate your input. So the provisions of this master agreement I will explain in the coming slides. So the overarching structure of this is Gilbert will give fee simple ownership to Copula. In response, they will provide financial compensation at market rate through an appraisal which will be conducted when the master development agreement is signed. Moving forward from that, an option for parcels in the remaining phases will be given to Copula, which we will compensate with the design engineering of the master plan. So you can see that both people put interest into this from both directions. Phasing will happen in 4 phases over roughly 3 years each. The 4th phase will happen as capital becomes available. Each one of these phases the first phase starts upon the signing of the master development agreement. The phases after that will start at the earlier of 2.5 years after initiation of the previous phase, excuse me, or at or the earlier of 2.5 years. This can be expedited if 75% of build-out has begun on the previous phase. During this process, Gilbert will be responsible for public right-of-way development as well as park infrastructure, and Copula will cause all vertical development to be made. This plan will be revisited every 2 years to make minor revisions to ensure that it is aligned with public interest. So the structure of phase 1, 2, and 3. Ownership will pass through an option agreement to Copula Development with the following provisions. Fee simple ownership will be achieved. We find this is essential to align our interests with Gilbert's in conducting this project. It will be according to the previously mentioned takedown schedule. Upon signing of this master development agreement, as I mentioned, a market appraisal will be performed by a third party. This will set the base valuation rate. This valuation rate will be held constant for 3 years as disposition price for any transaction between Copula and Gilbert. This price, outside of the 3-year window, will be appreciated at 3% per annum to determine disposition price. All revenue to Gilbert from the disposition of their property will be used for a Phase 4 seed fund, which I will discuss a little bit later. So the Copula umbrella. We reserve the right, or we will use a myriad of ownership structures to accomplish the horizontal development of this project. More importantly, a subsidiary of Copula will be created, which is a management company, which will run, initiate, and stabilize the programming of the civic space, which Camille brought up in the phasing of phases 1 through 3. This will have the intent of being able to stabilize and run on its own at the completion of the HVC district and be a standalone entity. Now we get to the icing on the cake. As Camille mentioned, phase 4. The town of Gilbert will be required to make a town center board. That town center board will be created of community leaders and people that have a high stake in the community. From that, they will take responsibility of the land which was allotted by the town of Gilbert for this phase 4, which is in this lower area and including a parking structure here. This town center board will have 2 major goals. That is to start a joint venture capital campaign with the town of Gilbert to raise remaining funds necessary for the board, and also to be a sounding board for community input. We'd like to have them conduct surveys and forums to establish exactly what the community desires out of a town center, so that it's really homegrown and exactly what they would like. From that, as I previously mentioned, the revenue from Copula's buying of phase 1 through 3 will be the seed fund to start this capital campaign. The Town Center Board will then use its expertise from the sounding board to pass on both all three, the capital, land, and community wants and needs through to the town center development. Copula will then manage all these needs and design the town center for a development fee, which is open to negotiation through the, as we work through this process. We feel that this is the best way to get an organically grown town center that really aspires to be exactly what the community needs. Financial expectations. This becomes a little bit more difficult because there's so many synergies with property uses. We can tell you, even though that a third-party appraisal will be done for disposition cost of phases 1 through 3, that our residual land value puts the phases 1 through 3 land value at just under $5 million, which is roughly $5 per square foot. This will also take into account appreciation as we move forward through the 10-year time period. We estimate the cost of park and street infrastructure to be also right around $5 million. This does not include streetscape, which will be in negotiation to understand the intensity of that use. At minimum build-out, which is build-out of the average build-out of the remaining Heritage Village Center, our property tax base can increase by $400,000. This is a minimum. If we achieve the density that we would like to with our plan, it will be probably around double. Also, Gilbert can expect to receive an additional sales tax revenue of, from 300,000 square feet of retail, restaurant, and hospitality amenities. We understand this is the real driver of the community of Gilbert and where they expect to see the most revenue. So we find this is very important to our deal. Most importantly, though, most of the benefits of this project cannot be projected and cannot be have a number be put to. It really is the sense of community that this new urbanized center can really bring. A place to be, a definition of Gilbert, which currently, is a great thing. It has a lot of room to grow, a lot of potential, because Gilbert has already assembled all this land, which is phenomenal. Thank you for your attention today. We really appreciate what the town of Gilbert has going, especially the Heritage Village Center, and we would love to make it an even better place tomorrow. My team will be up here to field any questions you may have.
Okay, so who wants to go first?
Get my question out of the way. I'm sure many of you probably have the same question. First of all, just wonderful presentation. I love the design ideas. I think some of the uses that you've suggested are right in line with the thought of stretching us and helping us to move forward from where we're at. You've done a good job of marrying kind of the existing uses and strengths of the district with the trends of tomorrow, and I thought that was terrific. Also appreciated the nod to tax generation, and grateful for that as well. What I didn't really see, and I guess it's probably in a book or something, a report that you'll be sending, is while I love all these ideas, I kind of would call them dreams at this point for these land uses, and I didn't really see much discussion about the feasibility study that you might have gone through on any of them, because those are many of the same things I would love to see, but how tied to reality are they?
Many of the existing ideas, such as the farmers market, were things that existed already that just didn't really have a sense of place, any solid infrastructure. We do have direct proxies all across the western United States that really have capitalized on that growth of kind of moving back to locally sourced foods, for example. Some of the other ideas, park amenities, that will take a substantial amount of programming, but we feel that once that gets on board, that those nonprofits will easily be able to be sustainable. If you have further questions on any specific thing, I can.
I guess the follow-up, and I appreciate that answer. The follow-up would be you've identified a lot of retail and commercial kind of space, and some of the other. There's several other uses, residential and that kind of thing. What kind of an analysis have you done to make sure that much space can be supported in this area?
We're in a rebounding economy here, and in the Southeast Valley, we're actually seeing largely industrial uses, so that would obviously be a challenge for a historical center, such as this. With regards to multifamily, there's strong support for that. And again, what we were trying to justify with some of the population numbers is that there is the ability to draw in uses into that center core. And what we're trying to achieve is a sense of placemaking through the farmers market and through some of the, if we can get enough programming in there, we think that it would be supported. Then when you get into things like a hotel, may been a bit more of a stretch, but once you have the destination, we think that it would, follow in line.
Let me add to that. Your supply and demand analysis. How many square feet does it support of retail? That's a lot of retail for that area.
I think there might be a miscommunication that some of the retail is required by the zoning for ground floor. That a lot of it is more flexible. It can be both, restaurant as well as, boutique style stores, things of that sort. But we should have put stronger numbers in the report. I agree. Get you out of the way first, Bronska.
Okay, a couple things. I'm confused. I look at these boards, I'm confused. I'm just confused. I'm not as smart as Neil, but I look at this in the phasing. I'm looking at red. I keep thinking that's commercial. I'm looking at and then I go, oh, well, now that's the land use. And then I look at this one, and I'm like, what is residential? What's hotel? I see big blocks. I see smaller building footprints. I'm just confused. If you could, for just in a very kind of just concise way, explain on that map what is what land uses are what first. I don't care what phase they are. Just kind of tell me what uses they are.
It's kind of easier to explain it on this map. I mean, this has titles. I know it's a little bit smaller, but this is the hotel site. This would be multifamily. This will have multifamily in it as well. This is office right here. Both of these are office. This is retail and restaurant right here. This will all be multifamily, as well as this right here. This is retail, and this is a cultural center. The rest of them are programmed parks.
Okay. Where's the parking structure for the? Where's the parking structure for the phase 4?
Oh, phase 4, it's included. The parking is included on the site.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It's included on site.
David said it was that other building.
This is retail right here. Yeah, this is retail. Retail.
Which is
Okay, so in follow up, where is the? Because I like the idea of. I'm sure the town likes the idea of having a hotel in this area. Is there a demand?
I feel like there's a demand, but based off
Oh,
of the
you
numbers,
feel
we're
like
trying to
there's
get, after looking
I
at the
feel like
numbers,
there's a demand too.
after
but
looking
I'm
at the
not really
numbers
sure
of the
that I would-
population and the fact that we're creating a destination dining experience, we're creating 0-0 as a cultural center. We want to bring people in. So that's why it's not in a first phase. We want to bring people in through those other uses.
And then just one other comment, and that is you talked a little bit about the property tax. This is just a general comment, not necessarily specific. But that when you do something like this, it raises the boat of everything, right? It raises the tide of all of the properties just to the east. It raises it to the south. And so it should be considered within the entire heritage district that everybody's taxes are going up just on the property tax side. So
That's mostly why we established the base rate, because the synergies and how fast this gets accomplished.
One more thing, and I'm just confused because it just I'm confused. Yeah, this one really confused me. But there's been such a wide variation in valuation. Right. It's surprising to me that we go from $2.60 a foot up to $7.60 a foot, and you're kind of in the middle,
Right.
which is, I guess, a good thing, right?
Yes.
So can you explain how you guesstimated that land value?
I actually did the the residual land value calculation based on rent now and the values as they increase in the future. That's why we're able to pay an escalation, a slight escalation to the town for every phase, because we feel that we will add value to the community, you know, to the other properties by after each phase.
I'd like to touch on the legal aspects of that as well. Why we keep a fixed rate for that third-party property valuation. We take it out of both the town of Gilbert's hands and our hands and get a third-party valuation. Why we do that is so that we can lock in that rate, you know, so that us, as we develop our phases, we don't end up shooting ourselves in the foot for the synergy that we've helped to make the base better together, that we now have to pay more and lose profit on the back end for both of us. Also, if there's any issue with that property valuation, either party can go out and seek a second opinion. If those opinions vary by more than 5%, this is built into the redevelopment agreement, then both of those appraisers go find another third-party appraiser, which will set the final value.
Our peak equity requirement is only $700,000, and that's just the initial requirement to. That's for our company, and that's because we will actually be selling the properties right after we buy them to the builders. It's actually, because it's a low risk, you know, situation. It's our return is only a multiple of about a 1.8.
As far as the option agreement goes, there are only 2 cases for default. We cannot back out. If we deviate from the development plan at all, Gilbert can remove us, and also if we cannot reach the outer bounds of the phasing schedule, they can also remove us. No. In any case, we have to. The only way we can back out is by not meeting that the takedown schedule, and if we do not do that, then we are removed. So there's no way that we can actually back out of that phasing schedule. Right, we are completely out. And in that case, because it is just an option to purchase agreement, the town of Gilbert would basically have their fee ownership made whole again. We would just lose the option on the remaining parcels that had not been taken down yet.
Since it's related to this, so when is the initial takedown? Is that immediately? I think you said upon the signing of the agreement.
Correct.
Is that right?
Right.
Is there any kind of rezoning that's going to be needed, or any engineering that you're going to need for the first phase?
We cover all engineering costs, but there is no rezoning. We collaborated and had everything within the existing zoning.
So you're taking it down, and you're going to take the risk then on getting the zoning or getting the everything approved that you want?
We will first do the designing and engineering, for which we will be compensated with the option agreement, and then upon that happening, yes, we will take down land.
So your takedown is contingent upon final approval of engineering plans and final site plan approval?
Correct.
In your first phase, you call, he raises an interesting question, and you say you don't need any rezoning. Yet in the first phase, you have retail on the first floor with, I think, multifamily above, in an area where there's no obvious pathway to draw people back and forth. Would you not want to try and do rezoning before that? I mean, it seems like you're being too accepting of a situation that may be doomed from the start, I guess is what I'd say.
That's I think, a rhetorical question, because all of this stuff's permitted. They don't need any rezoning, as far as I can tell. They have to have.
They're making a choice to
Right, and that's actually what my question is about. Well, first of all, I wanted to compliment you on the sort of linear clarity of your presentation. I thought your description of the structure of your deal and the phasing and the nesting of the phases and the creation of a town center council to manage this cultural use, which I think everyone's been sort of skirting around it. It's the really challenging part of this project. That was really brilliant, unique way to approach it, and kind of risky too with all the vagaries of having a community group in charge of something like that. So I thought that was the brave part. What I do question, and this gives me a chance to get back to Professor Bronska's issue about keeping the road wide so people can drive through, is the notion of moving the center of gravity off of Gilbert Road. And so I have a couple of concerns. The mix, I think, is good, but where it's located, I think, could be a fatal flaw in your project. The exact quantities, I do think it's kind of retail heavy, but the main thing is, foot traffic and visibility and so forth. And this is where I want to half agree with you in terms of people driving by a store and saying, oh, there's a store, I'm going to go shop there. I think that has been true for a long time since people went by tents on camels and said, I guess I'll get some water. But retail's changing. And destination shopping, I think in a way it's more important where you park to get in there rather than driving by it. And I think that what do you benefit really from people going through town except to divide your town? So you did one good thing was stick it all on the east side, so you don't really have to deal with getting across Gilbert Road. However, Gilbert Road is where the action is right now. That's the little nucleus around the Liberty Market and Postino and so forth. And this is drawing it off into kind of a no man's land. And it's not really set up in a gauntlet where in a classical retail formation where you have a big anchor driving people to walk by all the shops and so forth. So I would just recommend a little more analysis on exactly how the pedestrian, parking, and quantities, the flows of how all that's really going to work. Because to me, it looks a little bit like the functions got put in places where they were convenient according to the footprint and the square footages and so forth, rather than a really good analysis done of moving it over there. And also, when you make it the nucleus, like where is the nucleus? Or the center of this nucleus. The outdoor theater is an event space, and it's kind of right next to the train tracks, which to me conflicts with being a theater and trying to hear and so forth. So I think that the lesson I guess I want to leave after this is the relationship between the clarity of your numbers and your structure and so forth, and the detail of how the appraisal is going to work and all that. It's not holding up as well when I really look at how it's all configured there on the east side. And I didn't hear a compelling argument to abandon the west side just to more high-density residential and let them figure out how to get across the street.
Well, I have a few comments to make to that point. Maybe not an answer. I agree that a more thorough analysis of how we would move that central point of gravity. But I can tell you that the weight of the property. There is a definite correlation that the opportunity that exists where we can expand our property, or where we can expand on the property. And from our on-the-ground research, I can tell you that this destination has so many people in it that it is a park and then walk to a place on a Friday night or a Thursday night. No one who is in this line around the corner from, Postino's or Joe's or Liberty Market is parked anywhere necessarily on that streetscape. They're probably parked back here or in these vacant lots. So the fact that the people are already here and willing to walk to this new community center, which has retail that's inward facing with an outdoor place to sit, I don't think when you actually hit the ground running that you can argue that point. That's more hands-on though, which I agree. I agree with you.
I'll tell you, the feasibility of that inward-facing retail is slim and none. Okay, even though there is in relative terms a lot of people that are coming here, it is insufficient to pay the kind of rents necessary to create the space that you're talking about. I've just never seen it.
Rents on retail were.
Speak into the microphone.
Sorry, it just depends on
Give me a range.
What kind it is. It's between 90 cents and $1.10.
Too low. Way low. Can't do it. That's got to be $35 foot rent. in order for that to work. You just think about what you have to do in order to pay for the cost of creating that space, all right, and what it means to you. So this is the problem with that kind of retail. The stuff along here works fabulously because it's got eyes on, it's got traffic, it's got the kinds of things necessary to drive traffic in a more conventional sense. You don't have enough of an anchor back there to make that work. I don't want to pick the whole plan apart, but I think that becomes a real significant feasibility issue in how you look at what that space should be used as. Murphy, you had something?
Well, number one, I thank you all. I think you all are the first group that has shown this deal as it compares to its competitors in the region. So I definitely want to thank you all, and definitely good job for that, especially when you show the population and then the age range and family makeup and what have you. Good job with that in regards to the East Valley. I will say this: each part, especially as it goes by how we're going to judge each group, you guys hit each one of those parts. So again, I think you put a presentation together well overall. I'll recommend that as a whole in the individual pieces in your presentations, going forward, this might be going further down towards the end of our review. Going forward, take your time. Seemed a little rushed, and the transition wasn't as smooth as I think it should have been. But at the end of the day, when you get back to the numbers, yeah, there's a huge feasibility issue, and as was just said, adding streets and really diverting traffic is going to be really tough, especially when you are bringing people who haven't really come this way. You're bringing people off the beaten path. You're bringing people off of the 202, off of 60, off of 10, to now come, and then now they have to find where the center of gravity is, so to speak, within a neighborhood. You're really not helping yourself out, your retail partners. Now, yeah, multifamily can help with the constant foot traffic, but you're really not helping yourself out by moving the center of gravity off of a path that everybody already knows, especially people who don't live around here. So just for future reference.
Question about one thing you said during your presentation. Did I hear you say that the city of Gilbert was going to build all the infrastructure and you were only going to build vertical?
The infrastructure at this build-out capacity is already existent. They will be responsible for the streets, streetscape, and park infrastructure. So every public right-of-way. Yes.
So you're not planning on any contribution to any of those items. So you're just going to do the vertical as long.
That's why we're paying market rate right up front or through the takedown.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Quickly, these renderings here, it looks like somebody spent a lot of time on these. Are these something you created, or are they just images from Google or something?
It's basically image and photomontage it.
I'm sorry?
It's like walked on Photoshop.
But,
basically images from different other successful.
But, I mean, where would you envision those images in relationship to your plan?
Yeah, like the first one. The first one is over here, this central plaza, and on the left, bottom left is this. Our live work core, and that's just the streetscapes that we are envisioning on the right.
Oh, great job. I think it's great to see you expand some of the boundaries, adding the hotel component, the truck, food truck concept. I'm not sure that's, it's a great idea. It conflicts with the investment you guys would be making or other owners will be making in the community, so there's a difficult line to walk there as you contemplate that type of use. But I think thinking about creative uses like that would help bring more people is spot on, and I commend you for thinking outside the box.
I think you guys did a great job explaining what was going to happen here. I mean, the whole presentation in this linear format was very good. We raise a number of issues that relate to every single plan and relate to the area in general. You know, expanding the ideas or expanding to include ideas not yet included, like the hotel, I think is critical. Feasibility of hospitality is tough to figure out. You know, so one of my questions is, what is the size of this hotel you contemplate there?
When I originally designed it or chose that site, we were planning on not acquiring, I guess you could say, this part of the land right here. So it was just going to be right here. And originally it was 90, I think 90 rooms. But after we decided to acquire the whole part of the site, it's about 130 rooms.
Okay, I mean, that's fairly reasonable. I think if you're going to look at a boutique hotel, it's going to be less than 250 rooms. There's a number of examples around the country where you've got boutique hotels in redeveloped town centers, and I think they can make sense. I would suggest that it wouldn't be phase 2, however. I think that you need to create more of a there in order to drive some of that demand for hotel rooms, because the reason people are going to stay in a hotel in that place is to go to that place. And so you really need to establish that place first. More likely going to be the last phase. But I think really important to consider that kind of use in there.
Isaac, I agree. You got to come back. You guys did a great job, much improved upon on Tuesday. So good job. But you walking back and forth a lot. You need to stay planted, okay, and then and conduct your presentation. I thought the slides, ladies, about the region and the different population was excellent. I was hoping you might think so too, and how you compare to these other communities. I thought that was very, very excellent information that you guys presented. David, you did a lot of the presentation today, and you didn't reintroduce yourself when the microphone was given to you. I think that would have been an important, because you say you played such a major role in the presentation, and like Murphy said, you did tend to rush yourself as you went along. The other thing is about the boards. The colors on the boards didn't really match the colors on the slides. So if you just kind of keep that kind of choreography going, that'd be fine. Camille, you have a very powerful presence. You know, you have a very powerful voice. If you could just learn to maybe tone down, use more inflection, and soften it up a little bit. Okay? Great job, though. You guys look great.
Any other questions? Okay, good. Great job, guys. Thank you.
Do we know which one works best?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are Paleo Development. Myself, Dax Murray. We have Aaron Call, James Lacaria. We have Richard Cohen and Samantha Spriegel. First and foremost, we'd like to thank everyone for coming out today, for us allowing to share our vision of the Junction. So kind of in the infancy of the project, we're kind of wrapping our minds around what we were going to do and kind of what we want to provide. And so we decided to take a group trip down to the Liberty Market. There, while we're having lunch, we just kind of noticed that there are a bunch of different people in the area. You had an elderly couple, you had a young group of girls that were all dressed up in costumes, and we just really saw a vibrant culture in the area and noticed that it wasn't really the people that we needed to bring there, it was more of the infrastructure. So as Paleo Development, what we have to offer our services, we are going to be a construction management and master developer. With that said, basically we'll be advising and consulting with all the entities once the development is being basically produced throughout our phases. And also the infrastructure, so it shows basically the processes that we'll use to make sure this comes to light. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a brief history of the Gilbert region, and then we're basically going to move into history to where it is now and to where we see it in the future as in the Junction. So first we have 1902, you have Bobby Gilbert, hence the name Gilbert, that's where it originates from. What he did is he sold the right-of-way of his land to the Phoenix and Eastern Railroad. So then you have in 1903, that's when the railroad was completed. It spanned from Phoenix to Kelvin, Arizona. And so this was kind of the catalyst of building Gilbert. What it did was it allowed them to bring their agricultural goods and distribute them throughout the region. Also in 1904, that's when the construction of the Consolidated Canal was completed, and this basically cemented Gilbert as being that farming community. It allowed the water to be there on a consistent basis. So from 1910 to 2000, just to put everything in context, in 1912 is when Arizona became a state. So here we have in 1959, it'll give an aerial view. It's still pretty small in context. That's the Heritage District outline, as you can see. Population is just under 2,000. In 1979, you can see it's starting to build a little bit up in the northeast and down in the southeast. And now the population has gone up, just to roughly 4,000 in the last, 3,000 in 20 years. And now you can see the boom. 1999, population's at just under 110,000, and it's almost landlocked. So now we have the year 2013, current day, the population just right at 223,000. The median household income is at 86,000, and that is well above the national average. And also you have a bunch of top tier education systems, which is very vital for the area. We want to bring people in, and you have a very solid foundation for growth. Okay, development opportunity. So kind of what's happening in the Metro Phoenix area. As Mark eloquently put earlier today, it's a very mature market and just expansion. And also what I consider the boomerang. So you have Chandler, you have Tempe, and you have Mesa. So that's kind of the blocking factor from everything to this Metro Phoenix area to the northwest. And so wherever you come and where are you going, we're going to be discussing that today and in further detail. Also, what role are you going to play? Again, Mark said this in the earlier speaking. Just basically, what you guys wanted to focus on was that daycation spot and kind of bring the infrastructure here to allow people in the Southeast Valley to come and congregate. And what sets you apart? And like I mentioned earlier, you needed that infrastructure, and this is what we propose to bring to you as the Junction, which will set that infrastructure and allow the people to come, which are already here as well. And now I'm going to pass it on to Aaron Call, and he'll be going into the phasing and kind of what you are going to see throughout the Junction.
Thank you. Okay, so as Dax mentioned, the town of Gilbert over history, can you guys hear this on the mic? Okay. They've built up over infrastructure. They built in infrastructure with the canals, with the railroad tracks, with the 60, with the freeways coming in, the 202, and they build a community around that. So we'd like to continue that opportunity here with the redevelopment of the Heritage District and add some new infrastructure, build up the town, and then address some of the existing infrastructure. People have been talking about the Western Canal, the railroad tracks, Gilbert Road itself. We see those as assets to the town, and we'd like to improve upon those and then add some additional infrastructure and build up around there. So this is kind of our general site plan. It's up here, and it's also up here on the map. If this is a little bit harder to read, we're going to go over some highlights, kind of broad overview of the site plan itself, and then we're going to kind of dive into some of the areas, show some really pretty pictures about what our concept is, kind of what we're thinking, vision of what the Heritage District can be. We think, as paleo developers, we want to be the town's liaison to the private development community and be that go-between. We realize the town has other things in mind. They don't necessarily have the resources or the expertise to be in the development game and to be moving this project forward. So we'd like to partner with the town in that and really be that spokesperson that the town can come to us and then we can push that vision and interact with the private development on the side. So first, kind of a couple of key features of our plan is what we're calling the pedestrian paseos. These yellow pathways, these along the railroad tracks, the Elm Street, and the Western Canal scape. So what we're thinking of these is creating these pedestrian-only environments where people can walk, ride their bikes, walk their dogs, kind of hang out as family, but really create this junction and kind of create this space around Gilbert, bring in that infrastructure. Then we're also going to create a town center park right here in the center of town. It's a large plot of vacant land, kind of old town planning, a lot of older European cities, first towns here in the United States, in the South and the Northeast, kind of had that same setup where you build a town center, build a community, and then the community builds around that. We'd like to bring that into Gilbert and really create this cool park in the center. And then we'd create this pedestrian. Everyone's been talking earlier about how we have, if we're bringing the gravity off of Gilbert Road, you have to create some sort of a connection. So we would create this pedestrian-only pathway from the town center park to Gilbert Road. So as you're driving down, you have this big wide path. So you have a visual and a physical path from Gilbert Road to attract people into the town center and really try and pull that traffic in, both visually and physically. And then we're going to build up kind of around that center, add some townhomes and some residential kind of on the periphery of it as a step-down buffer from the commercial central around the town center and the single families to the north, south, east, and west to the rest of the community. Also, another phase of our project would be to move the park and ride location from where it currently is and bring it down here and create a free Gilbert trolley that picks people up from the park and ride station, comes up around the town center, comes back down Gilbert Road, and comes down here to the community center, and really integrate the two spaces. Gilbert has their offices here, but their historic district is up there. We'd like to integrate those two. So as we move forward, we're going to talk about this town center area and kind of what we can do with that and what our plan is and kind of our vision for that. We'd like to have some sort of a prominent architectural feature, a rail car, some farming equipment, something that we integrate with a town to bring and have a center and an anchor for the park, a reason for this park to be here. So we just have some kind of images of things that it can be, nice, soft pedestrian, some grass, some trees, a place for gathering, a water feature to connect to the existing water tower park across the street. And this is kind of a view of that pedestrian walkway in between the Postinos and the Oreganos and kind of get that visual stimulation between Gilbert Road and the new town center. Kind of some images of what we can do, some really kind of pedestrian-centric amenities, kiosks, a lot of retail dining, play off of the existing patio spaces of both those two restaurants, kind of really bring people into the space. And then we'd ring it with some mixed-use retail with townhomes above it. Again, focusing on the retail on the bottom floor, restaurants, pubs, patio living type environments to really bring people down to the street and get them involved. We'd provide some of the townhomes and stuff on the exterior, playing into the historic kind of materials, the bricks, the shade structures, things like that, but giving it kind of more of a modern twist so they don't look like old buildings, but playing off that history. some more kind of those townhomes, row homes along the pedestrian paseo. We'd raise those up so that they're not necessarily right on the pedestrian. So as people are running by, they're not looking into your front room, your front room, your living room, but kind of raise them up, kind of put some prominent space in these areas. Then we'd move on to what we're calling kind of the residential district on the periphery, where we'd ask for some softening and some negotiations on some of the current zonings to allow us to put some more density in these places and other locations around here to try and create and bring these people in here. We'd also, on what is currently Elm Street right here, we'd ask the town to come in and help us redevelop this area, kind of make it a more, it's a more pedestrian friendly, kind of bring in some pavers, some streetscapes, some things like that to kind of really make it, it's a nice big wide street right now with the sidewalks are set back, but, create it so it keeps the car access, but also allows for pedestrian traffic. And then, similar to something like this where you have big open areas, nice, clean, inviting areas for people to walk, but also to maneuver. We're discussing or proposing that we line the streets, the pedestrian paseos and the stuff throughout the historic district with this tree that's green during the summer and then in the fall time turns nice and bright and orange, kind of gives a visual stimulant to the space and really creates an environment that people would like to go and work in. And then this is the Town Center Park. This is the South Rail Park, just south of the railroad tracks. What we're proposing here is another park, a play park for kids, for families to come and congregate and bring those in there and really kind of up the ante and kind of deal with the existing infrastructure that's there. Sorry about that. And then more mixed use, more retail, more residential kind of around that town center. Playing off the existing water tower park. And then again, this pedestrian paseo along the railroad tracks, how we would address that and create this environment to bring people in there and bring, safely cross the tracks, but, use that existing amenity and really enhance it and make it what it can be. So how do we go about doing this? As paleo developers, what we're proposing is a development agreement with the town of Gilbert, where we have a rolling option to purchase the town-owned lands within the heritage district. We would move forward with this, and we would ask the town to provide us some zoning regulation. We'd enter negotiations for zoning to provide some of the mixed-use stuff. We'd also ask the town to provide their political, financial, and design capabilities to help us implement this plan and this vision. And as Paleo, what we're planning on doing is we're helping build some of this infrastructure, build the planning, interact with a development community, and really try and bring everybody in and brand this place, this junction, as a destination location. So we would do this, through collaboration. We realize this is a town. The town of Gilbert is a very tight-knit group. Everybody wants to live in the town of Gilbert. So we realize that the residents, not just in the Heritage District, but the entire town are going to be involved in this process. And this is where we'd ask the town to step in as well with, collaboration, design charrettes, that community interaction, really bringing people in, getting people's ideas about what they think, what they would like to see, and, partnering with us in that, doing 5K charity runs along the pedestrian paseos, sponsoring, really creating this brand around the junction and really creating this destination name brand location. So we'd roll this out in 4 phases, roughly two-year phases. We'd start phase number 1 with the town center park, really create this interest in the town center, the retail and residential around that, then move forward with it. We would partner with the town of Gilbert in the funding and construction of the town center park and the pedestrian paseo connecting the park to Gilbert Road. Then we'd come into phase 2, which would be the residential units around on the outside in the south border of the Heritage District. Again, we'd partner with town of Gilbert in paying and funding and constructing Elm Street. We're proposing that we rebrand that into kind of a Bobby's Way, or more of a brand name for that street, kind of play back to some of the heritage of the town of Gilbert. And then phase 3 is where we really bring in all the pedestrian infrastructure. We bring in the additional paseos on the railroad tracks. We upgrade the Western Canal path. We add the park and ride to the southwest, or southeast. And we create that Gilbert trolley. And then phase 4, we build up around the train station, or around the train tracks around that junction, kind of moving forward and filling in those infill retail spots. So what does this all look like to the town? Okay, so this is rough kind of financial numbers. We can get more into this. We're thinking, 8-year phase. The town of Gilbert will receive roughly $7 million from the sale of their lands. The private lands, the town, the pedestrian paseos, the town will retain the ownership of those things. The retail, the commercial, the residential, they'll sell to us, which we will in turn sell to third-party developers. So total cost to the town is $5.3 million for public infrastructure to include the roadways, the pedestrian paseos, the parking garage, the park and ride, things that the town typically pays for currently, and it's, we can work through that. So, and then Paleo, we're going to put in roughly 1.2 is our peak capital. We're going to make about $4.5 million, and our break-even point's at 2.5 years. Again, we're invested in this money. We'd like to show that we are actually putting forth money into the program and money into the Heritage District. We're not just trying to take all the town's land, sell it, and then bail. We're putting a lot of upfront cost into this infrastructure so that it lasts and Gilbert has an asset again once we bow out. So these are the kind of the breakdowns of the costs of things, of the various phases that we're asking for the town. And you can see the large portion of it is this parking garage, is $7.5 million coming in phase 3. Now we realize if the demand is not there, if we don't need that much parking, that comes off the books. So then you're out no money. They actually make a total profit off the job. And then here's our cost breakdowns. Total capital from Paleo is $2.3 million. We're investing into public infrastructure into the town. We're not actually building anything vertical. We're buying the town lots and we're selling those off. But we're that integrated, we're that mediary between the town and liaison. Liaison, good word, yes. Liaison between the town and the private development community. So at the end of the day, we're looking to adding 190 new single-family attached units into the town, kind of up the density of the people living there. People want to take advantage of living in the town of Gilbert. So we give them an option, not just in suburban setting, but kind of more of this urban setting that they can live in, and roughly 330,000 square feet of new retail and commercial office space. So again, we're really excited about this opportunity. We think there's a great potential for the Heritage District, for this junction, and we'd love to partner with the town of Gilbert. So if you have any questions, we'll take those at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a really good urban plan.
Advisory. He was our MUD student.
I have a question on there. It's two questions are related. You make the pedestrian paseo such a big part of your development, your project. Can you tell me how big, how long this pedestrian paseo is? Is it a mile, 2 miles? What is it?
There's a lot of different breakdowns.
Microphone, because there's a follow-up question to this.
Yeah. Comes out. Sorry, I'll just. On. Hello. Yep. So it comes out to about on their end, because we had different funding options for that particular part of the development plan.
How
it's
long?
About I just did it in square feet. So and some of them were like
Is it a mile, 2 miles?
About 250,000 square feet on their end, and then about 100 and something thousand square feet.
The length, linear.
I know. I have I know. I don't have lineal feet. I just calculated.
Okay, sorry. I remember. Along the Western Canal area that we're talking about, it's about 3,500 linear feet. The pedestrian paseo along the railroad tracks is 3,100 feet. And then from the town center to Gilbert Road, you're talking, I think that was 300 feet, something like that.
We live.
So, yeah.
We live in a kind of a hot place.
Yep.
How are you going to get people to walk 6 months of the year if you want them to use this walkway? What amenities, design features, landscape issues are you going to build in to cause these people to want to walk around?
I was going to say, yeah, we're going to build in that landscape, and with the trees, with the shade trees.
These don't exactly work.
They're not actually maple trees. Those are a Chinese pistache tree, which is actually part of the Heritage District's accepted zoning or landscape parameters currently. We picked that one for the dual colors in the fall and in the summer times. We'd also add in some other kind of groundscaping, some benches, some water features, things like that water fountains to kind of increase that flow. Cost of that? The cost of that, we have that.
In terms of, again, it's broken down.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have it kind of broken down into like the different ways.
So overall, what their initial investment is, it's about $14 a square foot, but that's all of it. So I haven't broken down for you right now to give you individually for the landscaping itself.
How much does it cost?
The individual paseo. Sorry, just there's a lot of we broke it down into a lot of little details. So the paseo ends up costing about $1 million over an 8-year period. Yeah. I went on a per square foot. I don't have it offhand right now. What it ends up being. Keep in mind, we're doing half of the improvements of the paseo. So there's another, I think, 15 or 1.5 million. So it's about 2.5. That's still substantially priced. Again, we're in it half and half kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I think the plan is excellent. I think your relationships are great. I think you thought it through. I think you looked at the context. I really appreciated your the depth of your analysis on the uses and how they all interrelate. And then also your willingness to take that next step and not necessarily in detail, but look at what the zoning is and what it can do and what changes need to be there for a reason. Not necessarily saying, you know, oh, we're going to make some changes, but you have a reason why you're going to make the changes. So it was a very good presentation, a very, very good plan. I like the concept, I like the idea, and I think the presentation was very good as well.
We've done a pretty thorough, a compliance analysis of the entire zoning. Redevelopment commission's going out, they're constantly amending and changing it. We saw potential in it right now. We'd ask that they not limit so much. So the particular uses down below here, that we would encourage some sort of a step down and allow for ground level residential. Not just have retail everywhere just because it makes sense for mixed use purposes, but it does make sense to have a buffer as well as down and along here. You want to step down into single family. Those single family houses may improve over the years, but who knows, right? So it's important to have that flexibility on our end as well as master developers and for the city and a good community overall.
So if you guys could go back a little bit on your presentation on the Prezi to your breakdown from what the city would be responsible for on their improvements. Yep. So is that's Gilbert improvements. So that's what the city of Gilbert will be responsible for?
Correct, yes.
Oh.
What was the question? Sorry.
Oh, no, I just wanted to make sure because it said Gilbert improvements, but I didn't know if Gilbert would be.
Town of Gilbert would be responsible for these improvements for various things, as mentioned there, yeah.
Okay, then can you go back to where you all, the total project cost, I think, was a few, yeah. That's it. So total expenses including.
Okay. So you have revenue, you have expenses, and you have total expenses. Something doesn't make sense there to me. Because you have twice as much expense as you do revenue, and yet your total costs are $5 million. What the heck is that?
What do you,
I was going to say, because so the revenue is the land sales of the town-owned land that they're selling to us that we would turn and sell to private development. We're asking for $12.3 million in infrastructure costs that we broke down on the previous slide.
So what's total cost?
The net cost to the town of Gilbert is $5.2 million.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so that's total all into the town is $5.2 million for public
Because they're getting
infrastructure.
$7 million worth of revenue.
Correct. And then we're in infrastructure, we're paleo.
It's kind of a goofy way to present it, but.
it should have been done where it's a negative number.
Yeah, and this was the slide that caught my attention as well, obviously. And well, what this shows, and I think you're missing a key element. What this shows here is total cost to the town will net out at 5.2, which should be a red number, of course, but 5.2. And then we can look down. Obviously, you wouldn't want to present this because your total return's 4.4. It's very interesting how that works. But what you're missing is, and I would hope this would be your answer, is, and I'll just ask you, have you done some sort of fiscal impact analysis to show that while our total cost, the dollars going out the door for this project are $5.2 million, the revenues generated by the project, what's the ROI to the town? Why are we interested in just, because we're not going to just take our $5 million and give it over to you.
No, I understand that, and it's a long-term thing. It's an 8-year period. So, and that $5 million doesn't, excuse me, does include.
Okay. So benefit cost analysis.
Have we done one related to
Yes.
taxes and anything?
In 8 years would be an insufficient time frame to do a benefit cost analysis for something like this.
Okay.
Okay? You're going to be doing it over a 30-year time period or something along those lines. I think the point for all the teams, and we've talked about this in class, is public accounting. Cities and towns have a different public accounting mentality and system than do developers. When you deal with towns or cities or governmental entities, it's incumbent upon you to understand what their drivers are, what's critical to them, because you're communicating with them. And I think that's where you were going with this. But to your point, right, you show that to somebody and they're going, really? You know, we love you as a partner, but give some of that up. You know, where's the risk-related returns for everybody in this analysis? That would be part of the dialogue. Get it, Rich.
I would just say with respect to your initial question, I mean, when we look back at the history, I mean, we didn't show it just to tell you what you guys already know, but it was really the theme of infrastructure-enabled economic growth over time, the railroad, the water, and all of a sudden something came from that. And that's what we see this as, a long-term infrastructure investment for that longer-term growth, and as you said, a 30-year analysis of that.
And that's what's important in the difference between a private party and a city and town, is that they're looking at investment for populations over a long period of time that drive certain things, and the economics of those are different than what it is for you. So understanding those differences becomes important.
My understanding is, and Ben, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the course of the last 20 years, as the town has condemned and assembled this land, I think they've spent over $20–30 million. Yeah, I mean, it's a substantial amount of money. So I think in this situation, you're looking at, netting them $1.5 million, I think at the end of the day. So I mean, it's got to be significantly more substantial to the town to enter into any type of development agreement, in my opinion. I don't think they're expecting to recoup all of that money, certainly, but they got to get there something closer.
So if they have $20 million invested in the condemnation over some period of time, which at this point is a sunk cost at this point, and the maximum that we've seen today is somewhere, $7.5 million? I mean, it's pretty much of a losing entity anyway. But that's no excuse for this. I will say that, from you did a great job. I'm not sure that I would ever publish that you're going to make 56% IRR. I don't think I would tell your investor that. I don't know if I would tell your partner that, because that's over-promising and you may never be able to get there. So that's just but I do have to say the best plan up there. So.
No, he's not biased. He's not biased at all, because you designed it.
I didn't do anything. They did it.
You said that you did. You told me all day that you did this plan. Anyway, Dax, you did a great job. It's conversational. You told a story about Liberty Market. That was a great opening. That you're the only group that and I appreciate this very much, you tied the plan back to an image. So I was able to make that connection. And as you go through your career, if you can keep doing things like that, it's so helpful for the audience here. Some of your slides, you had just too many words on them, okay? We've talked about PowerPoint, six words, 6 points on text slides, generally speaking. Way too many, and some of your slides are way too small to read. But other than that, just fantastic job. What, you got a handout? And an excellent handout, too.
Even though
Way to go, Michael. Way to go, Michael.
He still doesn't understand the T.
Yeah, the T, the ladies here were asking me how the junction, what's the T in your logo? Does it look like that triangle? I don't think so.
So this is the railroad track here. This is Gilbert Road right here. That's where we got that symbol from.
They were asking me, so I was
Yeah.
a little bit, yeah.
He does that, you know.
And the transitions between the slides are really distracting. Sometimes you go on this whole. I thought it was really distracting.
Okay, distracting.
But the problem with the Prezi is you're advertising for Prezi.
We're also advertising for Gilbert, Arizona.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Hold on one second. Yeah, thanks, Dax.
So I just wanted to say that we always talk about pedestrian walkways in the Heritage District, connectivity, and so I like the way that you addressed it with the paseos. And then one other thing that I know that you're not the only group that's done this, but I don't know about the feasibility of moving the park and ride because it's a regional facility. So I don't know the details of that, but maybe somebody on staff knows that, whether that can be done or not.
So, a question. Who owns the land that the park and ride sits on? The town does. So, do you own the improvements? Paid for by Regional Metro or something? I was just wondering whether you can do an exchange as long as you rebuilt it like kind, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of our idea behind it, is we would relocate it to this location because it's more of a central location there on Elliott and Gilbert Road. More people can use it. It's easier accessible. It's easy visibility on that street corner. And that chunk of land has a deed restriction against it of no commercial use for 30 years. So that was, do you remember? I think we're 10 to 15 years into that.
The only question I'd have about Park and Ride, the moving it down there is, I don't know if you saw in our plans, Gilbert's hope is if commuter rail comes through town, that the station would be pretty much where the Park and Ride is right now. So how have you incorporated that into your plan?
Well, the trolley is one of them. The new location of the parking garage is over here. And you're saying that this is the location of the potential commuter rail? Is that the question?
Potentially in that area.
The distance isn't that far off. And the number of parking spots were very high in the number, just in case. So if the demand goes up. Now, a big concern for us, another reason why we moved it so far away, is the traffic that would be generated from, let's say, increased density. So having people drive in strictly for the purpose of using commuter rail may not be the people that we want to be driving through here and causing more traffic jams and whatnot. Because in the mornings it gets bad around any commuter rail station.
Well, one of the issues is bringing a whole bunch of people back into a place like this when it's high traffic and conflicts with other things at the same time is tough. Yeah. And again, the feasibility of this kind of retail of any significance is low. It's just low. As much as we would love it to be, this is not Manhattan. This is not Chicago. It's not Portland. It's not someplace like that. There's simply not sufficient density that this corridor right there has the highest probability of success for retail development, period. And everything you can do to do stuff that brings people past here is great. But I think what you end up doing is you dilute the feasibility of all of this when you do that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, we live with this notion of vertical mixed-use development when we do these kinds of things. And we know it's really tough in the best locations. This is a secondary, tertiary location at best. So, you know, when we think about this stuff, we have to really think about what it means to say those kinds of things. Because I don't think you could warrant the kind of occupancy at rental rates that would support doing that.
The basic thought that we had, I mean, as a proxy, was the idea of Kierland. Well, you know, most of that retail is interior as well. Now, it's not, I mean, again, it's not the same scale, but that's the basic idea of having a center that people would go to with certain anchors.
And I agree. It's getting the anchors in. The idea of using proxies that we've talked a lot about is critical. Now, what you need to do is take Kierland, look at the scale of it, right? Because sometimes sheer mass, the number of square feet in a concentrated place, that's an outdoor mall. And it's semi-anchored, okay, I would say. Then look at the socioeconomic demographic characteristics around it and say, do those apply to this area as well? And the answer is going to be no, it doesn't. So the idea is okay. I just think that if you studied it in more detail, it would fall apart on you. But it doesn't mean that you can't have some other uses back here that draw people through.
Yeah, we rented it off of just trying for retail, and then there's office use as well. So it is that mix, and there's opportunity.
We've got one more team, and I don't know whether anybody's going to have this in there, but nobody has really addressed the opportunity of creating some supported co-working, incubator, seed spot kind of uses in here, okay, where you're looking at higher income, higher educated people, right, in an urbanizing suburban environment where you're trying to create higher wage earning jobs and you're trying to work off of this idea of a transformative economy. And so no one has really looked at what it means to say, wait a minute, maybe this becomes a different kind of economic generator for Gilbert in the area. You're not going to compete with the industrial that's down there or some of the other major uses, but you can have pieces in here that play off of the environment and create this incubator effect. Technology. Nobody's even addressed technology, quite honestly. Well, and what role is technology going to play in creating a dynamic, desirable place?
Okay, I can kind of talk a little bit about that. We studied that as far as our market analysis, and Chandler is really, that's Chandler's kind of driver is their technology, their incubator space. They put in a lot of infrastructure and a lot of buildings in the last 5-10 years now, and a lot of square footage is kind of down around the price corridor, around Intel and things like that. So we didn't think we could pull one of those type of technology centers out of kind of the hub of technology down in Chandler and place them here within the Heritage District. Gilbert's more primarily, based on our market research, more of a like a bio industry, a medical industry. We could see some of that space coming into the Heritage District because they can play off the existing hospitals and other medical facilities around the town of Gilbert.
It would be more of a co-officing kind of thing, okay? Smaller incubator, co-officing. And this is something that actually the town in their economic development group could look at doing, and that is forming some sort of town-sponsored, supported small business incubator opportunity here.
Okay.
I mean, that may be a real interesting thing for them to consider. And I didn't even read that. That's good. I did like the Prezi. Yeah.
This is, I think, you know, and again, I'm not just picking on this one or any of the others, because you could substitute those kinds of uses in any one of those red type of boxes, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I encourage a lot of the teams is, I call it, where's your yellow brick road, right? Where's the big idea? What are you doing that's going to set this as a place. And I think one of the things that this team has done is this creation of the Paseo, right? And this triangle district, we'll call it. Everything inside of that district, as you can see, is filled. And they've closed off some streets. I think there's some pretty neat things that that the plan has. And whether it's an incubator space or whether it's a Four Peaks brew pub, you know, those are the things that can actually succeed right there along the canal or along the railroad.
I do like the Prezi, by the way. I mean, you use it effectively. It's nice. Yeah, well, it can be a little finicky, but I did like it. Good job. We've got one more, and I think we're ahead of schedule by just a little bit. Thank goodness.
I actually blanked the second slide. I was like, yeah, what was I gonna say? Don't rip on me.
And you want to do me a favor and pass these out? Yes. Thank you.
We'll just stand behind you.
I want to stand by you.
Do this.
Dude, you're like so much taller than me. I feel wrong right now. Did you have to do that? God.
Those are too big.
You're powerful. That's what powerful like.
I mean,
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the town of Gilbert for having us. Mr. Vice Mayor, it's good to see you again. Mr. Banan, I have an offer for you if I can wrap this up in 10, 15 minutes, first round. First bottle? Okay, there we go. My name is Mike Gandy. I'm a representative of Design Space Incorporated, and we're here to discuss the master development plan for the Heritage District.
this guy. Try that one.
I'd like to take this moment to introduce Design Space Incorporated. To my left, we have Alba Rodriguez on design, Christopher Klein, market analysis, Ann Healy on financials, and Michael Markakis on legal. Additionally, we have Xin Chao Liu also on design. At Design Space, we like to initiate all our projects by finding out what the community needs are. So in order to do that, we first have to truly identify what a community is. And I thought this definition was very fitting. So I get home one Friday afternoon. My wife is driving me crazy like usual. And I say, you know, we're working on this synthesis, this Heritage District project. I suggest, you know, let's go enjoy an evening. Any chance she gets to spend money, she's up for it. So we go down to the Heritage District. We have a great time. People are out having a good time, enjoying dinner. My kids are going crazy over here somewhere. And she really likes this place. So we're from Chicago. She enjoyed the community feel. And I said, you know, sweetheart, is it really the restaurants? Because there's restaurants everywhere. What exactly is it? She said, it's the restaurants, but it's also the people. There's different people from different parts of the valley coming together, enjoying the space. It's a true community feel, and that's the vibe we got in Chicago. We had neighbors of different socio-economical backgrounds coming together, enjoying this place together. And that truly is what makes a place, a special place. It's this community. As Design Space, we have to figure out, you know, what do these people need? What is the problem we can offer to solve for them? So our additional step was to truly dive down into the needs of the community. And we feel we did that in step one. Our Design Space process is to first identify needs and how to address those needs. In order to bring this community together, we had to give them places. You know, people use buzzwords for mixed use like live, work, and play, and that's truly what you have to bring to the table. In order to do that effectively, we need to connect these different nodes of uses and users, connect them around a central idea, a central place they can gather and make their own. And that really is the Design Space difference. We feel we have the ability to address community needs effectively, and we feel like we have what it takes to plant that initial seed of development. And that seed for the Heritage District is Heritage Plaza. It's a central plaza built by Design Space, owned by the city, owned by the town of Gilbert. And it's going to be that central gathering place that these live, work, and play communities can gather around. What exactly is Heritage Plaza? It's a lot of things to a lot of people, and that's what we need it to be. It's going to be the genesis for future development, a meeting place for the community, whether it be an afternoon read in the park or just a meeting place for a night out. It's also going to be a location for special events. Obviously, a lot of festivals and street fairs are big now, especially in this weather. We want it to be a source of pride for the town of Gilbert, so we wanted to have some architectural features or maybe some public art to really draw people in. It's obviously going to be an accessible amenity for users in the area. Residents going to be able to enjoy it on a daily basis, but also it's going to be amenity for other Valley residents to find a destination in the town of Gilbert. We have an idea of how to begin this genesis of project development, but how do we make this happen? How do we work with the town of Gilbert to bring this all together? We're going to do that through a master development agreement and a ground lease agreement. In the master development agreement, it outlines several key factors. Most importantly, the structure of the public-private partnership. In there, you'll also find options to purchase certain parcels of land that we'll discuss later. The ground lease is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to outline key terms in the agreement, and we can discuss those further. Essentially, our business model for this overall project is to sign the initial ground lease with the town of Gilbert. Design Space will promote the urban lifestyle. We'll also cultivate that Heritage District lifestyle brand, thus, in fact, raising the premium we can charge rents as lessor of this ground, as sublessor, of this ground lease. At the end of the day, once the Heritage District is stabilized, flowing, self-sufficient with activity, we'll come up with a disposition strategy for city-owned parcels. The Master Development Agreement also outlines the CC&Rs for the district, It's very important for the district to maintain the historic character and feel, and we feel we need to do that in the design guidelines and the uses of those future uses. Like I said, design guidelines are very important. Obviously, we want to maintain the character of the district as it is now, but we also want to progress a little bit forward with the architecture and some of the uses, namely seen in the mid-century architecture the Postinos building has and things like that. We feel that that's important for the market. This type of urban market demands something a little extra. The Master Development Agreement also outlines the public-private partnership. This is a key agreement between us and the town of Gilbert to understand the responsibilities of each party, And to summarize briefly how that will work, as master developer, we'll enter into a ground lease with the town of Gilbert. As sublessor, either Design Space will develop those parcels or sublease those to a third-party developer. As property manager, we'll create a merchant association with the town of Gilbert to hire a Design Space entity to manage the day-to-day operations of the Heritage District. So why did we choose a ground lease? Well, we feel that, being a downtown historic area, this is pretty valuable land. We at Design Space, we want to push the top floor and we don't want the town of Gilbert to get off on the second. So we figured we needed to figure out a structure to ride the wave of appreciation over a long period of time, however long that may be. Design Space feels that the ground lease is very beneficial as it allows the town of Gilbert to essentially rent their land for future development. It allows low barriers of entry for future users, and we feel that that's advantageous to spur economic activity. And at the end of the day, the town of Gilbert receives all improvements upon that land unless another agreement is reached. Lower initial capital, that's a main factor of this. In order to spur economic development, we want businesses, developers to be able to get their foot in the door. Case-Shiller shows that even after the housing bubble popped, Phoenix home prices still appreciate at least at 2%, and we feel that that's a good metric to measure our progress on. Fundamental point that the town of Gilbert is going to be paid for the development of the Heritage District through this ground lease. Because of the size and scope of the project, phasing is going to occur over 6 phases, and you can see the highlights of each phase above. And we also have proposed assemblage parcels, which are not currently town-owned. The phasing of the ground lease portion of the project, and the leases are signed by the dates noted, and construction is complete and operating. Certain fee simple and multifamily parcels we feel that may have an additional market value as far as option of purchase at a later date are shown above, and their termination dates. Highlights of phase 1 include restaurant component. There's obviously high demand for dining in that area, and we feel additional restaurant component as far as making it a dining destination in the Southeast Valley is key. In addition to Heritage Plaza, which I spoke on before, we feel that making some of the side streets more street accessible or more pedestrian accessible, more pedestrian friendly, is also a key to generating some of the activity along those side streets east and west of Gilbert Road. Phase 2 highlights mixed-use multifamily building. We wanted to, again, generate some new construction, but also maintain that historic character and feel. And we have a great vision of what exactly these buildings can look like. One of the important pieces of the project is actually a lot of the unused space used by the retention basin. We feel that we can activate this space with some sort of running track, sports facilities, basketball courts, things of that nature, and seating. Phase 3 moves us to retail. What makes more specifically Gilbert Road special are the small shops, the small storefronts, the small business. And we feel by limiting the size of those storefronts, we can stimulate small business growth in the area. Bringing you to the southern parcel, we wanted to make this a community facility, a campus for social activity, and that's what we have envisioned for that. We more foresee this as the town developing this to their own needs rather than us stepping in and being involved. Phase 4 brings you to a fee simple product. This brings you more to the home ownership aspect of the district. We feel that this urban market demands more of a urban, hip, loft kind of feel, and you'll see that in the fee simple townhomes. Phase 4 brings you more mixed-use buildings. This is more of a loft style along the newly created Heritage Way. We named Heritage Way as we see it as a main thoroughfare east of Gilbert Road. It's currently access to parking lots east of the road, but we see this as a major arterial later on. Phase 5 and 6 are market-dependent multifamily products. We feel that depending on absorption in the area, additional multifamily product may be necessary. Here's a brief overview of the site plan and general layout of how these buildings will mass and interact with each other. Step 2 was the infrastructure. We found out what the community needs. We've provided them with the infrastructure. And now exactly how do we turn this on? How do we activate these spaces? Well, first, obviously, we want to market the Heritage District. We want this growth to be organic. We want it to be word of mouth. And there's no better way to do that than social media. We want to brand the district. I've talked earlier about how to create some kind of brand premium for the Heritage District. We're going to do this through marketing. We're going to do this through a logo, some kind of sense of place this district is going to have to be a cool destination. Some ideas of tying branding in are through wayfinding. It's going to identify key historic places. It's going to identify points of interest. It's just going to give you the arrival sense that you have already created with the street lights and things of that nature. We just want to expand upon that. So now we've brought more people into the streets through marketing, branding. The streets are more active and alive, and that feeds on itself. Here's a view we have looking north from Page Avenue of what an actual vision of the streetscape will look like. We want people to be able to use the streets as much as they use the area and the buildings. We've created some low impact ways to create these typically commuter-based areas into more pedestrian-friendly areas. This is a low impact example of a pop-up park where they've used temporary seating where traditional parking would go along the curb. And this is a very unobtrusive way to kind of add some activity and seating to a street. Here's another view of a pop-up park, and as you can see, it just provides for beautification and more seating and street activity, and we feel that adds a certain vibrancy to the city that the district could really benefit from. This is our vision for a truly activated Gilbert Road. This is Gilbert Road looking north from Columber, and you can see people with differing backgrounds, differing objectives, differing lifestyles, just interacting with each other. And that's really what we want to do. We want people to enjoy their lives together alongside each other. And that's what it's all about. It is about the businesses and it is about the bricks and sticks and the buildings, but it's more about the community needs. And we feel that we can provide that special infrastructure to truly make this a community. So we've identified the community needs, we've provided them with the infrastructure, the people themselves have come together and added the social capital and activated the streets. We now have street activity, and that's what the value we add to this project at Design Space. There's a tremendous opportunity here. The development of a historic area, creation of a community, a stable stream of income from the ground lease, increase in overall property values, a more pedestrian atmosphere, and overall economic growth. In closing, I'd like to thank you for your time. We truly feel that the Heritage District is a special place, and we'd like the opportunity to expand upon that. At Design Space, community truly is a very important part of our company's mantra, and we'd like to be a part of your community. Thank you.
That was really good presentation.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I'm serious. Do you think his diction, his pace, his purposefulness?
I think it was the best slides I've seen today. Nice and simple, excellent, well done. But I got a little, it's a team effort, Mike, and I wish your other team members could have had more involvement. I think it was a mistake with you doing all the talking. That's just me, but I wish you'd involve at least one or two others. Okay?
Okay.
Actually, that brings up what do you do when you're the person not talking? And I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but there's been a lot of bored people standing behind a speaker today. So I think it's I don't know that I object so much to one person talking necessarily. You did a great job. But you guys have to strike a pose if you're going to be there as the backup singers. So I think it's a tough situation. I do like the way you shoved the boards in our face and got up close. And there's been a lot of, you didn't point to on this trip, there's been a lot of different styles of presenting. The stand-up comic approach of walking back and forth, conversational. There's been a podium type presentation. I think we've had kind of everything other than the pedantic professor that stands behind the podium stiff as a board. We didn't get that one, thankfully. But I like this arrangement. It's very informal, kind of workshop-y with the boards. But now that you mention it, Darren, it would have been great to use these a little bit more.
I don't know where Heritage Plaza is. Can you point that out on the plan?
Absolutely.
That's Heritage Plaza. Okay. Right. So some maybe bigger text, especially in the handout. It was difficult. I thought the images that you have there are really good, but I didn't know kind of how they tied in, right? So maybe even have these with leader lines back into some of the plan, because it was a little more difficult for me to follow. So so I'll ask you, Mr. Gandy, so what is the payback, and when do you break even on this project?
I'm going to let our
I'm just kidding. I was going to ask that for Ann. What is your peak capital, and what is your break even?
So we have two different people to consider here. We have the town of Gilbert. So their peak capital is in year 2015, and they have to have an output of 15 million. And then they break even in year 2024, but in return, over the term of the 65-year lease term, the ground lease term with us, they actually end up making over $350 million through the ground lease arrangement with us. And then for us, we actually have our peak capital in 2000.
How does that sound to you?
So we reach
What's your benefit cost ratio?
It is 1,725%. It's a good number.
Ed, keep going.
And then for us, we have our peak capital in 2016 at almost $3 million, and then we break even in 2019, and then it looks like we reached stabilization around year 2022, so I sort of assessed the value of the asset 5 years later, and we are valued at about $26 million with a net present value of almost $2.5 million with an internal rate of return of 32%.
So how did you determine or assess the appropriate ground lease payment?
The value?
the ground lease payment. So how did you?
So we did a residual land value assessment for future value of the land at the time when we see it coming online. And then we determined the lease payments that the person leasing from us, the entity leasing from us, would be paying. And then we keep 40% and we give 60% through to the town.
So when does the town spend its money, and what is it spending its money on?
So, it's through the first like 4 years. Like we basically have sort of a schedule along with our phasing. Through our phasing, we're also saying when we do phase 2, where we add the multifamily with the retail along the bottom, to the left, yeah, right there. Part of that is actually the park to the west of that. So they already have it planned for them to improve some of the green spaces throughout the town. So we're saying here's a schedule that we advise you stick to with our phasing so that everything can sort of complement one another. So it's the park in phase 2, it's Veterans Park in phase 5, and then we actually suggest that we add some infrastructure, some road around the retail space and the plaza that we're adding connecting to Cullenber. So that's all part of the stuff that we're including in the schedule and the cost for the town to pay for.
I'd like to tell my twin, good job with the presentation.
Thank you.
Just playing. He is? I think we were close. How would you guys, with break even being 6 years, and then what have, again, the same question I have for everybody.
Didn't you know we're independently wealthy?
I think that's a misconception about all real estate developers. We just have a bunch of money sitting in our back pocket. But yeah, how, and it really goes to the last question of your business plan, including operating and financial and organizational plans. How are you guys planning on staying solvent throughout the whole deal? Because if I look at a deal and the developer isn't getting any cash just to carry their overhead, then it's gonna fall apart. Because if you get another opportunity to where it's gonna pay you cash for overhead, obviously you're gonna take that. You're not doing it for the benefit of yourselves.
Do you have a better answer than what I'm going to say?
Yeah, a hope and a prayer, pretty much, is the answer. No, I think that the assumption is that that cash on hand would be required under this structure.
So you say cash on hand. What do you mean by that? You need an equity infusion to last you for how long?
Well, there's a 6-year period, as Mr. Cheatham just mentioned, that there would be a lack of income coming in. So there would have to be 6 years worth of cash on hand to support the operation. Correct.
So how much is that equity?
Do you remember what the number is?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Unfortunately, sir, we actually do have it, but not presently.
I mean, it's obviously a critical factor. Great plan. If you can ever get there because you can't afford to stay alive long enough, then it's not a very good plan. So you really need to go back and look at how you fund operations and overhead. Management's a legitimate expense. We've talked about this. Management's a legitimate expense, and everybody who funds either debt or equity wants to know that who they're funding it to is getting enough money to stay alive. If you're really capable of doing what you're doing, your funders don't mind paying you legitimate management fees. In fact, they want to do that. They don't want to overpay you, but they want to do that because they need your attention. Sure. When you're talking about something that's complex, that takes this long, you really have to get somebody's attention for a long period of time. And Murphy's absolutely right, okay? Because the one thing developers are, they're like cats with a laser pointer, okay? They're all over the place, okay? Because they're chasing the next deal. So how do you keep their attention? It becomes really critical. I know you know the answer to this. So one of the failings you have in your presentation is you couldn't answer that question. You had to say, I don't know. You really have to have the answers to all of these things in your hip pocket. let me address the images. The one thing I did like about this is that I think that this team pushed the envelope on some of the imagery of what this place could be. You know, so you began to think in ways that were a little bit different than what you currently see as far as some scale and some design. I think you did a really good job with that. I think you fall apart a little bit in plan view, okay? I think uses and so forth are good. I think in plan view, some of the stuff starts to fall apart. Now, the other thing I recognize, and this is the same with every one of you, you got to the beginning. Okay? You did not get to the end of this process. You've got to the beginning of it, and you would be now, if you were successful in developing a relationship where the town says, okay, I want to go negotiate with you. Now you're really going to be into more refined discussion about design and details and things of that nature. So, you know, all of you should recognize the fact that this is the beginning of a very long process of really defining what would be done.
And I'll just tag on to a couple of those comments. First of all, the presentation pace and the visuals, top notch. I mean, it's rare that we see visuals that are that well prepared. That's professional quality right there. And so my hat's off to you. I think that they were very effective, simple, clean. Any one of us that's ever put a PowerPoint presentation together can learn from the use of white space. I thought you did a very effective job there, so thank you for that. Those are very nice.
I did.
So very good. When you go that route, the simple route, the clean route, sometimes you leave off the details. And that's obviously part of what you're doing on purpose. And I realize you do have some backup material. I don't feel like I got a good enough feel for how much of what uses you were proposing, or what were you were going to put here. There's a really long building there that I just don't know exactly what it is. And this visual here, while it's very stunning and interesting, I really don't know what it is. And so I don't have as good a feel from your group as I do from some of the others as to how many square foot of retail, for instance, or multifamily, or any of those details. You probably have it. In fact, you do. I didn't see it in your executive summary, but I'm sure it's in your full book. But it has to be to back up some of those numbers. But that was something I thought was missing from here, just to give me a little bit more feel for what you were proposing on a scope side of things. But with those numbers on there, I don't even need to see it. I'm just going to go ahead and buy. How's that?
You know, the interesting point, you were sufficiently vague in details in your presentation. You could have been sufficiently vague in your plan, quite honestly. You know, you could have matched that and been okay. But I think the overall ideas in the plan were what you should have really emphasized, rather than trying to be too detailed, showing parking spaces and things like that, because that's not what it's really going to be like. You know, so stick to a higher level, especially if your presentation is at a higher level. Anybody else have any comments? Yeah, fabulous job.
So are you showing Gilbert Road as a 2-lane?
You can go ahead. It's all you.
So after talking to traffic engineers and transportation specialists, it was their professional opinion that in order for Gilbert Road to become pedestrian friendly, slowing traffic had to be done. And it could be done in several different ways, either by adding traffic lights or by putting the road on a diet and creating parallel parking. People feel safer just by walking if there's a car parked. So what we did is we reduced Gilbert Road in a 2-way each way to a 1 each way. The median stays, and then we're adding a bike lane, both sides, and parallel parking. And that will allow us also, where the street is 68 feet wide, to add sidewalk space, especially on the east side of it. So we are putting the road on a diet.
Okay, so thank you, because I think that's a conversation that maybe we in the town have to have. And then The other comment I just wanted to make is that you did push the envelope with the modernity of some of the buildings, and I'm probably not comfortable with going to those extremes, although I do see the value in you know, expanding our vision. But thank you very much.
I love that word. Modernity, yes. That's a great words with friends word, too.
Great job with the presentation. It's great to see somebody, you're the only team, I think, that's even contemplated bridging over the railroad to the southwest. I think it's certainly worth exploring, and hopefully, I think somebody's looked into it in the past, but it's a great exercise as you've explored how to master plan this, because I think it's a natural that there be some connectivity and potentially an expansion of the district itself. So good job.
Anybody else have any questions? Very good job, guys. Thank you. So that was our last presentation. I have a tiny bit of housekeeping stuff that we need to do for the MRED students in particular. But before we do that, anybody have any closing comments regarding what you saw today, comments to the students, thoughts that you have?
I guess I'm really speaking to all of us, but in a very, very short period of time, I think the teams did a great job, all of them, in trying to synthesize a lot of information, a lot of really detailed information, and some teams more than others were able to solidify that, all those details. But it's a ton of information. I think going forward, if you're able to get some wholeness out of all these parts, would be a great goal. I thought the variety of presentation styles was fantastic. I really understood everybody's presentation. Any criticism from our side, I think, was being kind of picky. But that's our job, make them excellent instead of just good. I hope that the town of Gilbert got some brain yoga out of this today and feels it in the morning, a little bit of stretching. If there's one thing that comes out of this, I think the ASU's work will have been worth the effort. If it stimulates a conversation about Gilbert Road or about bridging over or about should there be modern buildings or who gets to get involved and who's going to make the call on what happens next, I think that's a great partnership between the university and the town.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, and I will echo that. I mean, it doesn't take much to stretch my brain. So, I mean, but this was definitely a workout now. And I want to thank you, as I speak on behalf of the entire town of Gilbert, for your efforts over the last couple of months. I know it's been amazing to see to know where you started from and to see the results that have been presented today. And you really have stretched our thinking. You've given us ideas that we will definitely take to heart. And as you continue to look at the town of Gilbert over the next couple of months, perhaps, we will continue to be watching closely as we hope to learn from you. But really what I would like to express is thank you. Thank you very much for all that you've done.
Well, one of the things that's, Murphy. Yeah, let me just, one of the things that's difficult for some of you not familiar with what the students have gone through, you don't see here, is how they get to this point in the short amount of time that they have actually to get here with a really complex problem. We add to this problem the Masters of Urban Design students, who although did not have as prominent a role here today in the presentations, have had a significant and prominent role in shaping the thoughts that you saw today. Okay? It's very difficult to integrate these two programs It takes a lot of effort on the part of the students. You see some of the work that they've done over here. You saw some of the work that they did here up on during the presentations. This is a learning process. We create these situations for the students to learn what it's like to go through this process. And what we say to them is, you're here to fail. We want you to try to do things that you would otherwise feel uncomfortable doing in the real work world. And in doing so, you get to test yourself and stretch. And I think what you saw today was some of that testing and stretching. Is it perfect? No. Did they answer every question? No. Have they thought of every question? Yes. We get to see that every day with them. Now they're learning how to put these pieces together. We've got one more shot at this before the MRED students graduate. And we'll discuss that with you on Monday. What I will tell you, and this is before I give this to you, Murphy, since I have the microphone, a little bit of housekeeping, okay? Andy has maps to get to Phoenix Community Alliance. There is no bus to take you there Monday, okay? Everybody shake your head. You got to get yourself there yourself, okay? Monday's a no bus day. 8 a.m., Phoenix Community Alliance, Central and Van Buren, all right? I think you've all been there before. Southwest corner. So you got to get yourself there. Andy has maps if you don't know where you're going, all right? Or Marissa now has them. Your Synthesis 3 problem has been released to you on Blackboard. Your new teams have been released to you on Blackboard. So you can leave here knowing that you've done a good job, but your work's not done.